I dare you to freeze every ingredient you will use in slime. At first, I was thinking of freezing the products in the freezer directly, but then I was thinking, how am I going to get the contents inside if it's frozen? I'm going to freeze them in an ice cube tray. I'm going to make a basic white glue slime, so I added white glue, borax, and lotion because sometimes I use that when I use white glue. I was curious and I wanted to see if baby oil will freeze. And foam beads, because why not? All that's left to do is to let this sit in the freezer. After 24 hours, we got our frozen products here. So the baby oil didn't freeze and the foam beads just stayed the same. I actually didn't think the lotion would freeze completely, but it did, and it looks so cool. It's like a rock sculpture. This was taking a little too long to melt and I got impatient, so I let it sit on the stove for a bit to make it melt faster. And after it has mostly melted, I was able to mix everything. The borax was not completely melted yet, but that's okay because it still worked. I was surprised that the slime formed because I thought the glue wouldn't work after freezing it. On the back of Elmer's glue products, it says to not freeze it, clearly. I'm assuming it's gonna just lose its properties after doing that. So it will still make slime, but it probably won't work to glue things. I dare you to try to mix slime with thick water. I actually want to see if it would work. If you don't know what thick water is, watch my previous dares video. I originally didn't know either and that it existed, but it's actually something that you can get at your local grocery stores. It's basically water that has been thickened with other ingredients. The texture reminds me of honey. I will be using clear glue for this because I want to know how long this would clear up. So during the process of activating this, I noticed that it stayed consistently clear throughout until I got to the kneading part where I had to keep kneading it in order for it to not be sticky and fully form. So I thought that was interesting because usually with just clear glue and borax, it would get cloudy pretty quickly. So this is what it looks like after sitting for 5 days in an airtight container. You can see bubbles, but for the most part, it's pretty clear, and that's pretty fast for it to get to this point, because usually it would take a week or even more than a week for it to be completely clear for a basic clear slime. Also, originally the thick water has some cloudiness to it, so it's not 100% clear. First impression as soon as I poke it was it felt wet, which I didn't like, but it wasn't that bad. It was tolerable. It goes away after you keep playing with the slime. It definitely made it thicker. Moving on to the next stair, I just want to see what would happen if you activate fake snow with a water and borax mixture then put it in glue. So I don't own any fake snow unfortunately, but I do have instant snow and you usually activate that with water. So I thought this was really interesting and I was really curious about this. So I started off with a cup of borax and then I added a tablespoon of instant snow. And then I added that into the glue. So here's the coolest thing ever. As I stir it, in about only 10 seconds, it was already clumping up and it was essentially already slime. I was so amazed by this, you guys. But here's the thing, after kneading it for a while, it will not absorb the snow at all. And because it was activated with a borax mixture instead of just water, it got even more overactivated the more I kneaded it. But I think this is such a cool experiment and it was really fun to see like what would happen. So I did try to fix it because the stubborn me didn't want this to go bad. I tried pouring instant snow activated with just water over it and see if that would melt it down because usually instant snow melts down overactivated slimes pretty well. Even with that, that didn't really help at all. In the end, what I ended up doing was just letting it sit for about 2 days in an enclosed container, and it did got a bit better, but you know, of course, it was really still overactivated, really hard to poke. But I'm sure over time, after letting it sit in a container for a long time, it definitely would soften up, just like all slimes would. The good thing is, it kind of looks like a marshmallow, so it's really cute. The wheel picked number 2. And that is, I dare you to make Orbeez but with borax instead of water. Then crush the Orbeez into tiny pieces and mix it into melted slime. So I saw these on Instagram and I thought those looked so cool. These are essentially Orbeez but in cubed form. I am making my borax solution. So I am just making about 4 cups of borax. There was no directions on how long to soak these for, so I just soaked them for about 24 hours. This is a 12-hour update, and they actually grew pretty fast. I was hoping that it would grow bigger, but it didn't really. I'm thinking it's because it didn't grow in 100% water since there was borax in it. And this is the melted slime that I'm going to be using. The dare said to crush the Orbeez first and then put it into melted slime, but I figured this would be easier since I'm just doing both anyways. And the slime immediately thickened up quickly, although it was overactivated because I did use a lot of the cubes, but this does work and it was a really cool experiment. Toga said, make a slime, then put mini babies in it. They are on Amazon. Here are the mini babies that I bought, and I got it on Amazon, just like the dare said so. I don't know if I should be concerned or not that these exist. I don't know if I would call them cute or not. As you can see, there are a variety of babies of different skin colors. We don't discriminate here because that is disgusting. I tried making it look like the babies are chilling in the pool with this blue clear slime. Unfortunately, the babies would not stick to the slime because it's just too stiff and it just, yeah. It was not good. So I picked a different slime that is 100% melted, but it's all good because I can just activate it again. And here it is, all of the mini babies in the slime. I do not recommend you do this because they do hurt my hands, especially when I'm like squeezing the slime. But I do have to say, crunchiness and ASMR is on point. I have to do dare number 2, and it is I dare you to freeze Activator into cubes ice, I think they meant ice cubes, and add it into slime. I definitely added more than I needed to, but I just wanted it as backup just in case I needed more than one. So I added the activator into the ice cube tray. I put it in the freezer. I kind of let it sit in the freezer for over 24 hours, probably almost 2 days actually, so that's my bad. But hey, this is the result and it's pretty dang cool. So the white stuff, I assume is like the borax. I don't know how the science work, but I think the borax was slowly turning into ice and it somehow got out of the ice or water, whatever. But these are the ice cubes. The slime that I'm going to be using it on is a completely melted slime. I just added the ice cube into this to see if this will activate. So to my surprise, it actually activated the slime. I thought freezing it would change its properties. It wouldn't work anymore, just how if you were to freeze glue, you probably wouldn't be able to use the glue anymore, I think. I'm not sure about that. The only downside to this is that it's kind of cold because the ice is cold and you kind of have to touch the ice cube and it's like in the slime and it's cold. Yeah, you know what I mean, hopefully. Okay, well anyways, this is the slime after it has been activated with frozen borax. I dare you to add any paper thing like paper towel, paper, or toilet paper and add it into slime. Very interesting. I don't think I've ever added any of those into slime before. Before we do that, I am going to mix some slime first. The slime got thick unintentionally. I wasn't thinking about the glue that I was using. I used glue all, so that's definitely why. There isn't any particular order that I'll be adding these into the slime, I just went with it. I started off with adding toilet paper, and this was fairly easy to mix in, probably because it's delicate and it's for your tushy, so I'm assuming, yeah, it has to be. But it didn't really do much to the slime. After that, I added in the napkin, and this was similar to the toilet paper. Easy to mix in. Again, I didn't really notice anything that big other than it started to get rippy when I stretch it, and the pieces of the napkin toilet paper were just there. Lastly, I added in the towel, and this really made the slime tough and rippy. I don't know if it matters that originally this slime was thick, and this might be more different if I add it into a thinner slime. Number 5 And that dare is, I dare you to freeze glue, make a giant bowl of activator, put the frozen glue, and wait until the glue melts and see what happens. I will be using both clear and white glue just to see if there would be any differences. I didn't know what to use at first to freeze the glue in. I was thinking bowls, cups, plates, but then I realized it would probably be really difficult to get the glue out, so I decided to use my ice cube tray because it's silicone and that makes it easy to push the glue out. I let this sit in my freezer overnight. After about 12 hours, this is what I got. The clear glue actually turned white. I thought it would stay clear, so that was really interesting to me. So the next part of the dare is to put all of these frozen glue into a bowl of activator to let it melt and see what happens. Is it going to become slime or not? After about 10 minutes, I noticed a peculiar reaction. So the clear glue was slowly melting, but surrounding it was this soft crystal clear thing, mabobs. The white glue didn't have that kind of reaction. It was just like getting a little bit mushy. I let this sit in the borax for 15 more minutes. Then I took them out and this is what I got. I don't know if this would be considered slime. I'm gonna say yes. It's definitely like an over boraxed slime, and some of the glue that probably didn't absorb the borax were leaking from it. It was just not stretchy slime. The clear ones were so fascinating because it actually felt like Orbeez, like crushed Orbeez in a way. It was really over activated, but this was a really cool experiment. The next stare is from Nini Karkashads. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. They said to mix melted gummy bears with slime and add decorations. Here's the gummy bears I'm going to be using. I actually looked up how to melt gummy bears in the microwave just to be safe. The most important one was to use a glass bowl or a heat-safe bowl and to microwave in 30-second increments. So in total, I microwaved for a minute for all of the gummy bears to be completely melted. It looks like the gummy bears farted and exploded onto the bowl. And here's the slime that I'm going to add into the melted gummy bears. So it started out fine. I was just slowly mixing them together, and then slowly and gradually it became despair. It would not form back into slime. I was expecting the sugar from the gummy bears to melt the slime, but I added so much activator that because of the amount of activator that I added, it accumulated too much liquid. At the same time, it was melting, so it just would not come together. This was a failed dare, sadly. I'm actually upset about it because I really liked the slime that I used. To see it just be gone like that really is upsetting, but hey, it's a dare and I am the one who picked the slime in the first place, so technically it's my fault, but I can't even finish the dare completely because it's just all liquid, so there is no point in adding in decorations. They would go to a waste. For the fourth dare, I have to do number 2, and that is, can you mix borax powder and instant snow then add it to slime? I'm wondering what it would do to slime. Would it melt or activate? So I added a half a teaspoon of borax with a teaspoon of instant snow and combined them together. This dare is similar to a dare I've done before where I activated instant snow with borax solution. This one is slightly different. I added the combined powders into the slime, which is on the sticky melted side. To my surprise, it did not activate or even overactivate the slime. I assumed that it would overactivate it because I'm adding a lot of borax into this. It did got messy, that's not surprising, but I did have to use my diluted borax solution in order for it to activate, and this is what it looks like. It looks like it has micro foam beads in it, which is kind of interesting. For the next dare, we're going to get our
science on. Science.
The dare is to use elephant toothpaste as a shaving foam for slime, and I assume they want to know if you can make fluffy slime with this. So I went on the interwebs to see how to make the kid-friendly version of it. I've seen extreme ones, and that's cool and all, but I'm not trying to destroy my house. I'm good. So one of the main ingredients is hydrogen peroxide. If you go to a drugstore, you can get 3% of it, but if you want a little bit bigger explosion, you can go to a hair supply store and get a hair developer. They basically help lighten your hair if you're going to dye it at home, and it comes in different levels. I got the strongest one, which is volume 40. A volume 40 has about 12% hydrogen peroxide, so that's pretty strong, and you don't want to get it on your skin for too long or else it will burn. The next ingredient needed is dish soap, so I added 2 squirts of that into my flask and mixed it all around. I assume that this is to create that foaming bubble look, and then now I'm adding some coloring. I've seen people add it on the side to create a toothpaste look. And finally, the catalyst that will activate the explosion. You can use dry yeast or you can use potassium iodide. I'll show you guys both for experimental purposes, but I recommend the yeast because it's more accessible and it's not a skin irritant. And of course, get your safety goggles on because you never know what's going to happen. So I'm going to show you the potassium iodide version first. This is diluted, by the way. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Oh, it's green. Interesting, yes. Yeah, it's hot. I didn't do anything. The reason why it gets hot is because this is creating a exothermic reaction, so it's releasing energy and that energy is heat. So now I am adding glue to this to see if this will make fluffy slime. I swear to you, I did not add any additional coloring. Your eyes see it. It's turning red, which is so strange but so cool, and I wonder why it's turning red. It first went from blue and then to green and now to red. And not just any red, this is some bloody red resembling an organ. Despite that, this is a fluffy slime. I mean, look how puffy it is. It's fun to play with and it makes great bubble pops, but this is not something that I would keep to continue to play with just because I did kind of made it with chemicals. The wheel chose number 4 again. The dare is, if you're doing a slime dare video again, I dare you to add a can of water repellent, the stuff you spray on stuff to make it waterproof, into a slime and see what happens. The water repellent that I'm going to be using is great for outdoor objects to protect you from the downpours of the sky. Rain boots, backpacks, tents, bags, jackets, you name it. The only thing to keep in mind is that you don't want to inhale it too much.
It is not for you.
So make sure you're in a well-ventilated area or you're outdoors. The dare said to use a whole can of this stuff, but because I am using it on a small object like this slime, it would be a waste to do that. And plus it says it's not good to inhale it as much. I'm going to be on the safe side and not do that. I only sprayed about 5 to 6 times. After mixing for quite a while, nothing dramatic really happened, so I decided to wait 20 minutes for it to dry. It said to wait 24 hours on the can, but I'm using it on such a small object and not a jacket or a tent, for example. After 20 minutes, I did the water test, and bear in mind that I never used this stuff before, so I don't know if this is considered a success or not. I noticed that the water is sort of running away from the slime. The slime is not absorbing the water at all, which I found so fascinating to me. So I decided to do another water test, but with running water, and that didn't have much luck. I wanted to do a comparison of a slime without any of this water repellent stuff to see what really happens when I add water to slime. It absorbs the water, like I can feel that the slime is wet and the water is not running away from the slime. So this water repellent thing works and it's pretty cool. The dare is add jello powder into Activator and see if it makes slime. So this is the jello that I'm going to be using. It's flavored grape, and on the back the direction says to add the entire packet into 1 cup of boiling hot water. To test this out, I decided to do a practice run, and I'm only going to add a tablespoon of the jello powder and then add 1 teaspoon of borax. Dissolve everything with 1 cup of hot boiling water. From the first drop of that, I can already tell it's clumping up, it's gonna form into slime. And so it did. It came out to be a really nice, clicky, white basic slime. So now I'm going to add the entire packet of the jello and see if this will work. So this wasn't activating the glue at all after adding it so many times, so I had to go in and add another teaspoon of borax. And this time it worked and actually turned the slime purple. The slime itself is really nice, clicky, glossy, it smells good. 10 out of 10 on that, but don't recommend doing this because you're gonna attract all the fruit flies. So now I'm going to let this sit out for 24 hours and see if anything will happen. To remind you, I did use jello powder, and usually when you let jello sit, it turns into jello, obviously. So I wanted to see if anything will happen to these slimes. Nope, these slimes stay the same. Nothing really changed about any of them. Princess Wolfie says, I dare you to mix a kneaded eraser into slime. I've heard about kneaded erasers and I think I only tried it one time. They are pretty cool. They're basically erasers that you can stretch and squish. I got a pack of them that comes in 4 colors and I've never tried this brand, so I'm gonna test this out. Straight out of the package, it's tough at first, so you do have to work into it and eventually it will soften up. It erases beautifully. And now it's time to see what this will do to slime. I struggled with this. It was just so tough mixing it into the slime because the eraser itself is not soft, so you have to really use your strength to squish this thing and mix it into the slime simultaneously. I even grabbed a little stick tool, those things where you can flatten out Play-Doh. I don't know what the terms are, it's just a clear stick, yeah. And then I had to like roll it around to squish it. Eventually this is what it looks like, and the best that I can do, I'm sure over time it will mix better. This looks like an explosion of crayons gone wrong, but I'm not mad at it. It looks like abstract art. I will say it made the slime a bit rubbery. Rashawn Khan says, I dare you to add 1 or 2 drops of every food dye that you have in your house in a white glue based slime and mix it. These are all of the food dyes that I currently own. I don't know if this is considered a lot, but this was a good dare for me to do because I was able to clean out empty food coloring that I just kept and never threw away. I was curious what color this would turn out because I am mixing this in a yellow slime and not in a white slime. Mixing all the colors was beautiful, although sad seeing them mix together. Sadly, it turned into this brown, poopy, puke kind of color, but what can you do?